Hey everyone, Erica here, and I'm back to do my review on City of Dark Magic by Magnus Flyte. For those of you who haven't seen my previous post where I spoke briefly about this book, it is basically about a young college student who studies music. Her professor recruits her to come join him in Prague and work on a project, but before she can get there, he commits suicide. She ends up going in order to find answers because she doesn't believe he committed suicide, she believes him to be murdered. In her quest to find answers, she discovers secrets that put her life in danger. This book sounds intriguing. The cover makes it look intriguing because it's a pretty cover. The back panel, where it gives you the synopsis, makes it look intriguing. This little bit right here, I can read to you. Prague is the threshold to another world, where the fabric of time is thin, a city steeped in blood. Sounds intriguing. Whole thing, covers look intriguing, but oh my god, was this book bad. And you know when they say don't judge a book by its cover? That is so true, because it looked like a good book. It did. And this book was horrendous, and I don't mean bad as in the, oh, it was alright, I probably would never read it again type of bad. No, I mean the bad where you sit there and wonder, why did I force myself to finish reading this? This book is the type of book you want to throw across your room and burn in the hopes of saving the future of literature. This book right here. And I know that seems harsh and quite unfair, but my review will explain my points, and hopefully you will not buy this book and save yourself. This book was a major disappointment to me. The writing was choppy. It did not flow right. The characters lacked depth and personality, and to anyone who was hoping that this book would have anything remotely to do with dark magic, you will be sad, because this book has nothing to do with dark magic at all. In fact, it has nothing to do with magic at all. It deals with alchemy. Yes, that's true, but dark magic? Magic at all? No. And alchemy is like a science, really. It's not magic. You're not brewing a potion. So, no magic at all. So that alone was a major letdown. Now, despite the title and the writing and the characters, it just, as a whole, was a letdown. The story alone did not flow properly. It did not pull you in. The first chapter was intriguing, I will give it that. It was about a group of people committing suicide. And that's horrendous and terrible, but it was enough to pull you in. It was a hook. That's all it was. And then you jump into the story with Sarah Weston, the main character. Now, apart from what the back panel is, what I've grasped from the story is that Sarah Weston, the main character, she goes to Prague to find answers. She meets other people with specialities in guns and chinaware and clothing and paintings, and they work as a whole to recollect certain things and bring them back. That is very intriguing, because I am sure during wars and all that, families had things taken away from them and sold. People want them back. So, you know, that part of it made sense. But the character Sarah Weston was very average, and I will get more into her later, but she was an average college girl. There was nothing special to her at all. Now, my main problem with this book was the fact that I skimmed a lot through it. I skipped pages, in all honesty, and I didn't finish it. I got to about the second last chapter, and I had to call it quits. I could not finish it. I read the last page, but I could not bring myself to finish it. And that is not what you want in a story. You want it to be a page turner. You don't want to be able to put it down, and when you do put it down, it's not because you want to put your head through a wall if you read one more page. That's, in all honesty, that is how a book should work. You should not want to put your head through a wall. And that's what I wanted to do while reading this. Now, to get into the writing bit, because I'm a writer myself and I look a lot into writing and I want certain things to be certain ways, and I understand each writer has their own voice and their own way of writing. But seriously, when a chapter and a paragraph, if the whole thing, in all honesty, does not flow together, then you should not be writing. You shouldn't be. The dialogue lacked. I mean, it was all the he said, she said, and there was no emotions. There was nothing. And that bothers me, because there should be. The reader's not supposed to create it themselves. You know, it's there to put it in your mind, and you create what they look like, and you create everything else, but you're not supposed to be the one going, oh, he must have said that angrily. No, that's not how it works. So, that alone is one of my major problems. Another thing would be the characters, because they lacked in everything. They were boring, they were bland. I can't recall half of them. I couldn't recall half of them when I was halfway through the book. And that's pathetic. Not on my part, but on the writer's part, because the mere fact that you couldn't remember who these characters were, that you couldn't recall them, was a major problem. For instance, around more than halfway through the book, one of the characters, one of the specialty people, gets killed. And they give the name, but for the life of me, I could not remember who she was. I could not remember what speciality she was in. I couldn't remember anything about her. And I had to backtrack to find her. And I didn't find her. That's the worst part, was I couldn't. And nothing is more irritating for a reader than having to sit there and go, who the hell was this person? Because for all you know, it could have been someone important. And it wasn't, but that's basically what it was. Now, these characters, you had many thrown at you. A lot of them thrown at you at one time. For instance, when Sarah first gets to Prague, she meets all the other specialty people. And there are so many that they get lost within each other. And, you know, that happens in novels. I mean, take, for instance, Harry Potter. You had 7 novels. 7. That is a tremendous amount of characters. And yet, anyone who's read those novels and enjoyed them can recall almost every single character. You can throw out the name Lavender Brown, and people will know who you are talking about. And she wasn't even one of the main characters. That is because she had personality. There was a thing about her that people could remember. With City of Dark Magic, that element was not there. These characters were bland. They had no spice. They had nothing to them. And with that, you easily forgot who they were. Now, the main characters are sadly the same way. You had Sarah Weston, who is your average sex-crazed girl. She is like a cat in heat. Upon her arrival in Prague, she is turned down by a statue. And that's just weird to me. It's just weird to me. She is very, I don't even know how to really describe her. She's annoying to me. I found her very annoying. She would never figured anything out for herself. It was always she was in the right place at the right time, or someone explained it to her, or she happened upon a piece of paper. She never truly figured anything out, and that makes her seem boring, because you want her to be sitting there thinking and puzzling over things and putting it together, and she never does. The worst thing about her is that when she first lands in Prague is when I became thoroughly disgusted with this character, and you do not want that with a character you're spending the rest of that book with. She, as I said, is sex crazed, and she gets turned on by the statue. At dinner, when she meets the other speciality people, she gets felt up by some guy, and she encourages him. She goes off to the bathroom and waits for him and has sex with him. But, well, what she thought was him. Turns out it wasn't. It turns out it was some random guy, and she was perfectly okay with that. Perfectly okay with it. And that alone, it just thoroughly disgusted me. And it goes on to continue with this about how she goes off and has sex with people. And I'm not a prude, I'm not against sex in novels, but this was just, there was no purpose to it. And I will get more into that later. Another thing about Sarah Weston was her ability to sniff things out. She could sniff out lies. She could sniff out bombs. She could also sniff out her future sex partners. So to me, she's like a dog. A hound dog. In essence, that's really what she was. So to me, she was just a appalling character. I did not like her. She was just horrendous. Now, the other characters, there is a prince. I believe his name is Max. And he is your stereotypical LA rock star boy. He does nothing and he does drugs. Now, he has a wonderful background. He is a descendant of this family that lived in Prague who had their belongings taken away from them during World War II and the Cold War and many other wars, and it's been scattered everywhere, which is what these people, these specialty people, are trying to get back. The thing is this prince doesn't care about any of it. He's not looking for any of it. It's some guy, I think his name is Mills or Miles, who's trying to get it all back. Now, this prince is lifeless. There is no personality to him. He has about as much personality to him as a rock. Actually, that is an insult to rocks. Yeah. Rocks have more personality than the prince did. That's sad. So, and again, I know that sounds harsh, but he throughout most of the book, he kind of keeps to himself. He's quiet, and you get characters like that. But even when he comes into play, he's still very quiet, and he has no personality to him. It's always, he said, she said, he said, she said. I'm having problems now. But no, that's basically what it is with him. And it's very bland and boring. And the only time he actually has any life to him is when he's on these drugs. In which case he ends up beating Sarah Weston because he thinks she's on fire. I mean, she fights him off, but he thinks she's on fire. So he goes from being bland and boring to psychotic in a brief second, and then it's gone. And he goes back to being bland and boring. That's about as much life to him as we have. One of the other major characters was a blind child prodigy. I can't for the life of me recall her name. But yes. Because that's probably because she was boring. You would think she would sound cool, but she's not. To me, she seems psychic. And it's never said in the book that she was or not, but if you read this, you'll understand where I'm coming from. She's able to sense things. She knows that something's not right. She knows that there's this baby frog that you ask for something and it gives you your wish, and she knows that's not the real baby, and just other things like that. But she's still very bland and boring and lifeless. The one character I did enjoy was Nicholas, the 400-year-old dwarf. Yes, he's 400. Even though he was one of my favorite characters, he was still very boring. And for a character that had so much background to him, something that you could have dug so deep into, that was a major letdown. The mere fact that he was about as lifeless as the prince, which meant he was as lifeless as a rock, you know, it's sad, really, when you think about it. Now, to get on to the bad person in this book, because clearly there's baddie if people are being killed and someone's trying to kill Sarah Weston. There are, I'm not sure if there were two bad people or if there was just the one. They hint to two, and the one is Max's cousin, who you don't really see a lot, and she's very boring. You don't understand her. There's nothing to her there to understand. So when she's there, you just kind of go, oh, okay. The other one, who's the main baddie, her name is Charlotte, and she is a senator of the United States. She used to be a spy, and then she became a double agent with Russia, because her lover was from Russia or something. Now, she's not really a baddie. To me, she's more like a school-ground bully, where after the age of 5, you're kind of not scared of them anymore. There's nothing to her, nothing to be afraid of. She never did her own work. In fact, I don't think she blackmailed people, and that was about the gist of it. She wasn't really evil. And I love the baddies. I love the psychological aspect of it all, that you could get into their minds and understand why they're doing what they're doing, because there is always that motivation. There is something in them that's ticking and making them do what they do. And with this, that is not there. And, you fail to really understand that, because you really want to know why they're doing what they're doing, and you can't. So, it's sad with these stories that are like this, with these characters that have no personality, nothing to latch on to. Now, what's really bad about this book is that the author seemed like they woke up one day and went, oh, I'm going to write a book. It's kind of like one of those things where you wake up and you just have this sporadic urge to do something that you normally do not do. Go on a random trip, or do something you're terrified of. Something like that. And that's what it really felt like this author did. Now, when I know I say they a lot, or I did say they a lot, and that's because Magnus Flyte is not a real person. In all actuality, these are the authors. They claim to be the representatives, but they're not. These are the actual authors, and as you can see, they are drinking wine, so one can only assume that they were drunk when they wrote this book, and I hope that they were. I really hope they were. This is why I don't believe in books being written by two people. I feel they never work out right, because you got two voices, and maybe that's what really threw me off of this book, was the two different styles of writing, although normally, if you're not a writer, you don't see it. To get on with this review, so now that we know about the author, that this is not Magnus Flyte, it's actually Meg Howry and Christina Lynch. Let's get on with the review. Now, and to anyone who's seen Doctor Who with David Tennant and his famous what face, you will understand this. To anyone else, you will probably just laugh hysterically at me. But in this book, there were points where I just sat there going, what? What? And there I have three major parts where I've done this. The first one is the sex scenes, especially when they first came on. Like I said, the main character, Sarah Weston, has sex in the bathroom with someone she doesn't really know, but it turns out it was someone she didn't know at all, that wasn't even supposed to be in there, and she's perfectly okay with it, and you later find out that that person was Max, and she's still okay with it, even though he followed her into the bathroom and had sex with her. without her permission, without anything. And that alone is just creepy to me. It goes on that they continue having sex in very strange places like statues, or on statues, not in them, but on statues. And every time it comes up, you kind of just sit there and go, what? Because it's awkwardly placed. I mean, they just throw it in there at the most random of times. For instance, at one point they're in mid-conversation and they just go at it on a statue in mid-conversation, and I was quite relieved when the police showed up and arrested them. It made things a lot funnier for me instead of sitting there going, what? They also go into detail about the sex. And to me, when I picked up this book, it seemed like a book for young adults. It's not. I wouldn't even recommend this book to an adult. But to me, the sex scenes, and there's also swearing, and both of these seem out of place and forced upon us, like for the shock factor. Like they were sitting there drinking their wine, giggling, haha, this is going to be so funny. To me, it did not fit well. And nothing bothers me more than when something doesn't make sense, because Max and Sarah had nothing in common at all. They didn't seem like a romantic interest in them, and I mean, that could be because of the character depth, because it was such a lack of it, and there was none of that for them. Now, the other thing that I did what was that, I don't know which one to do first, which one will have greater impact, but we'll do the Max one first. Well, both Max, but we'll do this one first, is that Max is engaged. Well, he becomes engaged, or is proposed, to his cousin. And every time I read something like this about incest in families, I always do my what face and cringe and want to put the book down and never want to touch it again. And I don't know what it is, if this is a growing trend with people, with brothers and sisters and cousins and things like that, but to me, it does not belong in there. Incest is wrong, people. And reading that really made me go, just what? Like, don't you people know? It's just wrong to me. The other major thing, which was, I probably laughed at for about 15 minutes because of this, and because it was so thoroughly disgusting, but the drug Max takes, you would think it would be a normal drug, but it turns out Sarah starts taking the drug as well. She's not really tricked into it, but she kind of is at the same time, because she has no backbone and she takes the drug. But when you find out what the drug is, all you can sit there and do is, what? And I did that for probably 15 minutes until my fiance looked over at my book and shook his head at me like, what the hell are you reading, Erica? Now, the drug. The drug is a toenail, but not just any toenail. It is Beethoven's toenail. And feel free to go, what? And I am not kidding you. The drug is a toenail. And who in their right mind would eat a toenail? Willingly. Oh. And it gets better, because it turns out you can, with the alchemy, you can make more toenails. But they have to be Beethoven's toenails to see Beethoven. It's supposed to be a time drug. It's not really, because it talks about time travel, and it's not time travel. You're hallucinating. That's really what it is. And taking this toenail, you can see Beethoven. So that was my last what? It was the mere fact that they eat toenails, and I stand by these authors were drunk. Please let them be drunk. So, with that said, there are a lot of questions in this book that are left unanswered, and that terrifies me. For instance, you never find out why the professor killed himself, and it's hinted to because he was on the drug. It's hinted that he just fell. It truly was an accident. It wasn't suicide, but it wasn't murder. And there's another bit of Nicholas, the 400-year-old dwarf, who's looking for a way to kill himself. It turns out he had been tricked into taking this potion, alchemy potion, which caused him to live forever. And he doesn't want it anymore. He wants to die. So he's on a quest to find that. And then you have the Prince, Max, who is trying to find the Golden Fleece. What the hell is the Golden Fleece? Because I do not know. And it's not because I didn't finish reading the book. I did read most of it, I swear. And they do not bring it in until about halfway through? Not even halfway through. Not even. It's way at the end that the Golden Fleece is actually brought up. And you are sitting there wondering, what the hell is the Golden Fleece? And I did not answer it, and that terrifies me because the last chapter, or the last page that I read was Sarah looked at the ticket and smiled, her nose already twitching. They go looking for the Golden Fleece. There is going to be another one of these books. May God help us all. I'm so sorry, but I weep for our future. Now, those were the down points of the book, and as you can tell, there's a lot of them. To make this a fair review, I'm going to talk about what I did like about the book, and although there's not many, there are actually some bits I did enjoy. For instance, Prague. I truly loved the description of Prague, and the fact that you could picture in your mind what it looked like is amazing, and I love that, because to go to a place you've never been to in your mind and be able to picture certain things is amazing, is wonderful. And they did do a very good job on that. I don't know if what they said is accurate or just hallucinations off this toenail they've been eating, but I'm talking about the authors. They're eating toenails now, but that, to me, is amazing. The other thing is Beethoven. Is you learn a tremendous amount about Beethoven, things that you would never know. All of it's not true. I highly doubt Beethoven ate his own toenails, for instance. I highly doubt it. But you learn a lot about him. You learn that he wasn't always fully deaf. I don't know if that's true or not. And about some letters he wrote and things like that. And that is interesting to me because I like learning about things I don't know about. I never would have studied about Beethoven personally. So, to me, it was very intriguing, those bits of it. If I could change one thing about the book, apart from the writing and the dialogue and the characters and the awkward sex scenes and swearing, if I could add one thing in, it would probably be chapters from Nicholas the 400-year-old dwarf. I feel that he would have been a profound point of view to know what he was going through, all the things he knew. Because he was 400 years old. He's been around for some time, and we would be able to know so much more if we got to know his point of view. And I feel that they really lacked in that. There was not one point of view of his, and I think that in putting his point of view, we would have maybe connected a bit more with the story, connected a bit more with him, instead of feeling he's just a creeper who follows people around sometimes. So, if they do write a next book, I'm not reading it, but I do hope they add a point of view of Nicholas. Because for someone who's trying to find a way to die, I would like to know what happened. You get little bits and fragments of what happened to him, but I would like to know what really happened. Now, that is my review of this book. I don't think there's anything below an F I can rate it at. Can't do an F minus. Maybe you can. It's an F minus. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. It's not worth anything. I mean, I wish I hadn't spent money on it. I could have bought a book in the airport. That would have been better than this. So, don't waste your money, please. If this still seems like something that intrigues you, though, rent it from the library. Don't buy it. If you still love it, go and buy it then. But I would say rent it from the library if you still like it. If not, I don't even recommend renting it. That's the worst part of this. I usually recommend renting. Do not rent this. Now, that is my review for City of Dark Magic by Magnus Flyte. I know it's a bit harsh, but it's the truth about it. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about me, I've just moved. I have moved countries, and I am engaged to my fiance, who currently is a UK citizen. Well, not currently, he is a UK citizen. I am here on a fiance visa, so I am not allowed to work, so I will spend a lot of my time reading. Now, I have also a wedding to plan, and my writing to do, and other things to take care of, but a lot of my time is spent reading. The one thing I do love about being here in the UK is not because it's just an amazing country, but back in Ohio, where I'm from, all our bookstores pretty much closed. The only bookstore we had left was Barnes & Noble's, which was about, an hour away from where I lived. So it was a trek to get out there, and I hardly ever went. And Amazon, I think, is the reason most bookstores are closing. But here, there's 2 bookstores in the town center. So that means I can get a lot of books now, and I'm excited. And I don't have to wait for them because I can just buy them and come back. So, I've already purchased my next book, and I am pleased to announce, and very excited for this one. It is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. It is the book. There was a movie. It had Dan Radcliffe in it. Been adapted into a movie. I've seen the movie. I've owned the movie. I enjoyed the movie. It scared me. So I'm excited to do my review on The Woman in Black. I want to see what's not in the movies, what they changed, and what they left out. So, if you've seen the movie and you want to know how the book is, stay tuned. If you haven't seen the movie, but you're still intrigued by the book, stay tuned as well. Now, I will give you a brief summary about this, as I did with the City of Dark Magic. So, I'm going to read from this back panel here. It says, "What I heard next chilled and horrified me. The noise of the pony trap grew fainter and then stopped abruptly, and away on the marsh was a curious draining, sucking, churning sound, which went on, together with the shrill neighing and whining of a horse in panic. And then I heard another cry, a shout, a terrified sobbing." It sounds good. There's also this inside panel, but I'll do that when I come back with my review. So, it's not as thick, so hopefully I'll be back soon enough to do my review. Until then, happy reading, everybody. Bye.